Alright guys, so I've got something a little bit different with this one. This is actually a watch from a brand that I haven't checked out for quite some time. I think it's about 3 years since I last checked out the previous one. And this one here is actually an addition to that previous one I checked out in that range. So this is the French Microbrand Charlie Paris. And this is their latest watch, the Charlie Paris Concordia Reef. So this is available either on the bracelet you can see there, or also that strap. You can choose which one you want. So I'll be showing you on both, so you can decide which one you prefer. But let's get all this out of the way and then show you in a bit more detail. And here it is. So the first thing that's probably going to jump out is that really lovely green sunburst. And I really do like the shade of green they've gone for with this one as well. I think it gives it a very classy look. But if you aren't keen on this green one, they do actually do a very similar one in blue, but that's got a slightly different name and also case back, and that one is called the Azur. So before we get down into this properly, I'll quickly go over the pricing, because obviously it varies depending on whether you go the bracelet route or if you go the strap. I'd normally recommend going for the bracelet, but in this case I think I'm probably going to be leaning towards the strap, and you'll see why as we get into the review in a bit. So on the bracelet it's coming in at €293, which is £254 and about $343. That exchange rate is not doing you guys in America any favours. And then if you want to pick it up on the strap, it's €250, £217 and about $293. And that is for a Microbrand watch that they say is actually made in France. But the question is that good value for money? Or are you paying a bit of a premium because it is made in France? So we're going to go over everything, as I say, the bracelet and also the strap. But before we do all that, first of all let's go over the dimensions. So we've got a diameter of 38mm, thickness of 11.1, lug width of 20, then the all important lug to lug is coming in at 45.4. Now when it comes to the weight, I'll give it you for the bracelet and also the strap. So with the bracelet, with all the links included, it's coming in at 141 grams, size for my 7-inch wrist, about 133. Then when it comes to the strap, that's obviously reduced significantly, and that goes down to 75 grams. So let's take a closer look at this bracelet, because there are a few little things that are a bit of an issue for me, especially given that price. So we've got the logo on there, and also the Charlie bit, not the Paris. Decent level of a micro adjust. Then we've just got a fold over, and it is just a friction based clasp. I'd like to have seen pushes instead, because it can be a little bit awkward sometimes. You've got to get your nail in there, but it is a milled clasp at least. But getting back to the outside of it, there is another issue I have. So hopefully you'll be able to see it here, and it's where the clasp actually joins onto the rest of the bracelet. So you can see the bracelet is tapered, but then when it gets to that end link that is attached to the clasp, it doesn't taper down nicely. There's a bit of a step. So all I've done with this is take out a couple of links, and then that's what I've been left with, unfortunately. So again, given the price, it's not ideal, but at least it is actually quick release, as is the rubber strap. And it is a very nice one as well. So we've got that detailing on there, and then if we check out the other piece, and we've got that Charlie branding on there, as well as on the buckle. Then we've got that really nice case back, with that diver there, and then Reef written in French. And then when it comes to the specs around the outside, again it says made in France. The fact that it's 316L stainless steel, also claiming we've got sapphire, which we'll be checking in a bit, and also 300 meter water resistance, which is pretty impressive considering this isn't even a diver. If anything, I'd say it's actually overkill. So now let's check out the head of the watch, starting with the side profile. So you can see we've got a fairly plain finish there, fully brushed, but we've got a nice polished chamfer on the edge, and we've got some nice domed crystal there. Again, we'll be checking soon if it is sapphire. Again, we've got a nice polished edge on that bottom of the bezel as well, and then you can see that really nice satin crown, which has actually got a nice little bit of detail on the side as well, with that green inlay matching the dial colour. And I'd imagine if you go for the blue one, that'll have a blue insert instead. So now let's get a closer look at that dial. And you can see more clearly now that really prominent sunburst. So we've got applied indices, and according to the listing, at least the translation version anyway, it's saying that they are gold plated, the surrounds and the hands, but I'm not seeing that. So perhaps something's been lost in translation there. Either that, or perhaps maybe they're using white gold. But either way, it still looks really good, I think. It's a smart, classy looking piece. And as I mentioned earlier, when the light catches that dial, it really does come alive with that sunburst. Gives a really cool effect. And you can see we've got a bit of blue AR on that crystal as well. Would have been nice if they'd used a clear AR, but it's not too big a deal. It's not really noticeable most of the time. The only real issue I have with the dial is that we've got quite a lot of text on there. I'd like to see that stripped back a bit. But now let's check whether we've got sapphire crystal on this or not. Using the trusty diamond selector tool. And yep, we have got sapphire crystal, so that's always good to see. So that was accurate on the back of the watch saying it had sapphire. But now let's check out whether the lume on this is any good or not. So initially it's looking pretty good. Doesn't actually specify on the website what lume they're using, but based on the colour I'm assuming it's C3 or something equivalent. So there's no patchiness, pretty consistent across the hands and the indices. The hands are slightly more green, at least on camera anyway. In reality it's more similar. But the question as always is, what is the longevity like? So let's speed this up now and find out. So to begin with, as you'd expect, not a lot of change. But as we keep going on, you are going to notice some differences between the hands and the indices. So the hands are going to fade a little bit quicker than the indices, which isn't ideal, and I think that might be mainly down to the fact that they've used quite a thin handset. So overall, the lume is okay, not brilliant. It could have done with a few more layers on the hands and on the indices, to be honest. This one won't be lasting you all night, which is a bit of a shame. So now, let's get onto the movement and talk about that. So if you haven't figured out already, this isn't an automatic watch, it's actually got a quartz movement, but it is a sweeping quartz movement. So if we unscrew the crown, because it has a screw down crown, and then if we pop it out, you'll see the second hand stops, so we have hacking, and then obviously we can just change the time, pop it back in, all works well, as you've come to expect with the VH movements, and then just screw the crown back down, nice and grippy, nice size, no issues there. I do like these sweeping quartz movements, you kind of get the best of both worlds almost, so you kind of mimics an automatic, but you get the grab and go ability of a quartz. So all that's left to do now is show you what it's like on wrist, on both the bracelet and the rubber strap, go over the pros and cons, and then you can decide whether you want to pick one of these up for yourself or not, and also whether I'd recommend it or not, and which variation I would recommend. And here it is on my 7-inch wrist. So I think it wears really nicely, looks really smart. I absolutely love that green sunburst dial, but again, with this bracelet, those issues, including that slightly odd link bit joining to the clasp. Hopefully now you can see it a bit more clearly now I'm actually wearing it. I think there's a really obvious step there, so it kind of tapers down and then there's a bit of a kind of step drop almost, which is a bit disappointing, as is the clasp overall, to be honest. I'd definitely like to have seen double pushers instead of the fold over, and also at this kind of price it would have been nice if we'd had an on the fly adjustable clasp, but that being said, I've managed to get a good fit. As for the rest of the bracelet, I would have liked to have seen them carry on that chamfer on the case, just onto the edge of the bracelet as well. I think that would have helped tie it all together a bit better, and just made it feel a little bit less generic. But when it comes to the head of the watch, I think they've pretty much nailed it though. So as I say, we've got that sapphire, lovely dial, applied indices, applied logo, really nice case back as well, nice detailing on the crown. The only real letdown when it comes to the head of the watch is the lume. I'd like to have seen a few more layers on there, and as I mentioned earlier, just reduce that text on there a bit as well. So you've seen what it's like on the bracelet, but now I'll show you what it's like on that rubber strap as well. So this is what I've been wearing it on more, because of the issues I mentioned with the bracelet. See, it wears nicely on wrist, and again we've got that branded buckle, and I just think it suits the watch a bit better, to be honest, as well as wearing a bit nicer. I think the bracelet needs a bit of work, so I'd definitely be recommending getting this on the strap if you do pick one up, which is the opposite to what I'd normally say. I'd normally recommend getting a bracelet that comes with a watch, because you know it's going to fit well, but with this one, that isn't really the case unfortunately. So I'd be saving the extra money and just picking it up on the strap. So I guess that neatly brings us on to the conclusion. Would I recommend this watch? Does it justify that price, which is on the high side? If you go for the strap option, I think I can probably just about justify it, although that lume is a little bit of an issue. I think given the price they're charging for this overall, it would have been nice if they'd included the bracelet and the strap in the package, so you could swap between them quickly and easily, given they're both quick release, and that also would have made it feel a bit more palatable in terms of price, I think. But let me know, what do you guys think? But if quartz isn't for you, and you prefer automatic, then perhaps you want to check out the previous watch I reviewed from them. I'll leave a link to that at the end. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.